Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is the data show for the lymphatic system. This picture demonstrates the stroma of the lymph node. The lymph node is formed of stroma and parenchyma. The stroma is formed of the capsule here and the number of trabeculae arising from the undersurface of the capsule, and a background formed of reticular connective tissue, which is formed of reticular cells and reticular fibers. And in the holes of this background, the cells of the parenchyma are present. In this picture, we have the following labels. This label for the capsule. What is the character of this capsule? The capsule here is thin. So, in this area, we have, or in this picture, you may be asked about the following. The capsule here, the capsule is characterized by being thin, first of all. And it is formed of irregular connective tissue, white fibrous connective tissue containing two types of fibers, collagen fibers and elastic fibers. This capsule also is penetrated at the convex border, here. It is penetrated by the afferent lymph vessel. So we have at the convex border, we have the afferent lymph vessels penetrating this convex border, bringing the lymph for its filtration. So this is for the capsule. Then, as regards the trabeculae, here we have the trabeculum arising from the undersurface of the capsule. This is one trabeculum, or this is one of the septa. What about the knowledge you should have about the septa? Here the septa. The septa arise from deep surface. This is first important information. And it divides the cortex into regular compartments. يبقى هنا الكورتكس هيتقسم إلى compartments منتظمة, regular compartments. And also divide the medulla. Also we have septa that appear in the medulla, but in case of the medulla, these septa divide the medulla into irregular compartments. This as regards the septa. So we have septa. All the septa arise from the capsule, under surface of the capsule. Some are short septa dividing the cortex into regular compartments, and some are much deeper, dividing the medulla into irregular compartments. Finally, we have to know very few things about the reticular connective tissue, which is present here in the background, of the lymph node, it is formed actually of reticular cells, which are branched cells, and reticular fibers. The cells here have processes and join each other, forming a reticulum, and they have also the reticular fibers. So they form a reticulum, and inside this reticulum, the cells of the parenchyma are present. So they form a background in the form of a network. In the holes, we have the cells of the parenchyma. You may be asked about the stain. It is stained here. It is stained by silver, as in this picture, to have a brown color. Brown color. So in this picture we have the components of the stroma. We have the capsule, we have the one of the septa appearing, and it is a cortical septum, and we have a background of reticular formation formed of reticular cells and reticular fibers. In this picture also we have the following labels. Under the capsule here we have in the cortex we have lymph sinus. So when the lymph arrives by the afferent lymphatic, it passes into sinuses. We have the subcapsular sinus, subcapsular under the capsule, subcapsular lymph sinus, which is the empty white space here, and also passes in the sinuses related to the trabeculae called trabecular sinus, here the empty space here. This is the trabeculum here, formed of the connective tissue, and this is the trabecular sinus. And after that it passes to the sinuses present, other sinuses present in cortex and as well as in the medulla. So we have subcapsular sinus, we have trabecular sinus, we have the cortical sinus here, we have also cortical sinus, these spaces here that looks like blood vessels but they are lymph vessels, and we have also here deep we have the medullary sinus. We have also to know what are the types of the cells present in these sinuses. We have here the following cells. We have number 1, B lymphocytes. Number 2, in these lymph sinuses for filtration of the lymph, hair daughter, which is the plasma cell. Number 3, the very important assistant or the antigen presenting cell, which is the macrophage. So we have the mother, the daughter, the assistant. The macrophage is one of the antigen presenting cells that form the following functions. They trap and transport and partially digest the antigen to present it to the lymphocyte. Also we have few T lymphocytes. يبقى number 4 few T lymphocytes. So we have now B lymphocytes, her daughter plasma cell, her important assistant macrophage, and few T lymphocytes. Additional information also is the lining of these sinuses. So now, what is the lining of these sinuses? Either in the cortex or in the medulla. In case of in both sides, these sinuses are lined by flat endothelial cells like any blood capillary, but they have also the macrophage. So this is the lining of this lymph sinus. In case of the medullary sinuses, these medullary sinuses are similar to the cortical sinuses. They are present between the medullary cords and the trabeculae. And they are lined by the same lining, and they contain the lymph filtered through the cortex. So this lymph most probably is now clean after its filtration in the cortex. This is the picture for the lymph node demonstrating its parenchyma, which is described as outer cortex here and inner medulla. Here in the cortex you can see the lymphatic follicles or nodule present in the cortex, and in the medulla you see these irregular cords. That's to say, we have rounded or oval structures at the cortex, and in the medulla we have irregular cords or irregular spikes like this. In this picture you have also the capsule is present on the surface. You can see the capsule. You can see trabeculae, but you cannot see reticular formation because it is only stained with silver. So in this picture you have this label for this structure like this. If all of it is dark, it is a primary follicle. If it has a pale center, it is called secondary follicle, and the center itself is called germinal center. This zone is the cortex. This zone with the spikes is the medulla. What are the possible questions in this slide? You may be asked about the structure of the primary follicle or nodule. What are the cells present in the primary follicles? In the primary follicles we have, most important is the B lymphocytes. With the B lymphocytes you have the antigen presenting cells like the macrophage, and you have reticular cells forming the reticulum of the stroma, and you have of course few T lymphocytes. So this is the primary follicle. What about the secondary follicle? The secondary follicle will have at the periphery, this peripheral part here is dark, and it is formed of the B lymphocytes which are not yet activated. So the B lymphocyte, we know it is formed of this dark nucleus. It is a small lymphocyte formed of a dark nucleus because it is not active cell and very small amount of cytoplasm. So the presence of these dark nuclei here in this peripheral part gives the dark appearance of the periphery. While in the center, here in the center, you will find the following. You will find in the germinal center the following cells that should be studied. You will have the activated B lymphocytes. Number one, the activated B lymphocytes. And as it is an activated cell, so it has a large pale nucleus. And also their descendants, which are the plasmablast, which will form the plasma cell. So we have activated B, and when it is activated, it will give rise to plasmablast and finally to the plasma cell to give the antibodies. In addition to the other cells we know that that will be the reticular cells, as we said, as well as the antigen presenting cells or the macrophage, as well as the few T lymphocytes. So these are the components of the germinal center in the secondary follicle. Again, we will return to our picture. Here we have the cortical follicles, and as they have germinal centers, they are called secondary follicles. If you have a label for the deep area of the cortex at the junction between the cortex and the medulla, this is the thymus dependent zone. This is the thymus dependent zone that contains T lymphocytes. coming from the thymus. How they leave the bloodstream and reach this area of the cortex? This takes place through what is called the post-capillary venules. Here, this is the we have here venules in this area, and these venules are lined by cubical or high cubical cells that have receptors that identify the T lymphocytes and allow them to pass to the thymus dependent zone. So may be asked, what is the origin of this T lymphocyte? It is from the thymus. They leave the bloodstream and reach the cortex, deep area of the cortex, through post-capillary venules. Post-capillary venules aligned with high cubical, simple cubical epithelium, but the cells here are high. Simple cubical epithelium with high cubical cells. Also here you may have the label for this dark irregular area. These are the medullary cores. What about the medullary cores? The medullary cores are formed of B lymphocytes and plasmablast and plasma cell. So here you can now talk about the medullary cores. The medullary cores, the cores here contain what? Contain the B lymphocytes, and when they are activated they give rise to plasmablast and the plasma cell finally. So these are the cells present in the medullary cores, and they are similar to the cells present in the germinal center, the major 3 cells in the germinal center. Also, you may be asked what is the lining, or what are these light areas here? What are the light areas here in between the dark cores? These are the medullary sinus. And again, you know that the lining of the sinus is the endothelial cells in addition to macrophages, and this sinus contains the lymph filtered and by the cortex. Here we have the afferent lymphatic, and then we have the subcortical and trabecular sinuses, and after filtration it reaches the medullary sinus to be collected as clear lymph from the efferent lymphatic in the hilum. This is a very good slide summarizing the structure of the lymph node. Of course, here we can see this acidophilic area. It is the thin capsule. Then we have this area CX. It is the peripheral part of the lymph node, which is the cortex, formed of the lymphatic nodules or lymphatic follicles. And then we have the central, relatively paler part formed of cords. It is the medulla. Here you can see at this center of the lymph node, this is the hilum. يعني hilum يعني السرة. This hilum contains here the blood vessels, all types of blood vessels, arteries and veins, together with the efferent lymphatics. The afferent lymphatic comes here and pass through the sinuses, either in the subcapsular sinus or trabecular sinus, to be filtered, and then passes to the medullary sinuses, and then collects in the efferent lymphatic to pass away from the hilum. Here we have also the subcapsular sinus. It is the whitish area under the capsule, and we have discussed it before. Also, we have the follicles, and we have 2 types of the follicles. This is the secondary follicle because it contains the germinal center, and it is discussed before. Here, T for trabeculum. For the reddish line, it is the trabeculum. For the white area beside this line, it is the trabecular sinus. So take care. The white area is the sinus. The red line is the trabeculum. The P area or the P zone, this zone, when you have a label for deep part of the cortex at its junction with the medulla, this deep part, it is the paracortex. This paracortex has another name, which is the thymus dependent zone. Why? Because it depends on the thymus to have its cellular content. What is the type of the cells here? It is the T lymphocytes. How they leave the thymus, they pass through the blood, and then when the blood supply reaches this lymph node, it leaves the blood to settle in this paracortex through what was discussed before, a vein called post-capillary venule. Post-capillary venule. This is lined with simple cubical epithelium, and these venules then collect to form veins that leave the lymph node through the hilum. Then we have here the medullary course. Very evident, very easy. These irregular spikes زي الشوك كده, irregular in shape. These are the medullary cores present, and they contain, as we have said, 3 types of cells, similar to those present in the germinal center, which are the B lymphocytes, the plasmablast, and the plasma cell. This is also a very nice picture for the structure of the lymph node. Number 1 here we have this red line, it is the capsule. The red line here, or the red area here, it is the capsule formed of collagen and elastic fibers. We have smooth muscles only in the hilum. Then we have these, number 2 is the lymph follicles. These are the lymph follicles, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you see here, we have the germinal center. So these are typical secondary lymphatic nodules. Then we have number 3 is the subcapsular sinus. This is the white area. This white line under the red capsule is the subcapsular sinus. Here we have also the trabecular sinus. If you look here for this trabeculum here, it is a red line, and the white area around this area, this whitish area, it is the trabecular sinus. This whitish area, I will make it much bigger. Here we have, this is the capsule. Here we have the capsule. We have here the capsule, the subcapsular sinus, the lymph follicle. This is a trabeculum, and the white area near to the trabeculum, it is the trabecular sinus. Also we have here a trabeculum, and we have a trabecular sinus. So the trabeculum is red and the sinus is white. Again, we have number 4, the medullary cores. The medullary cores are very evident here. These are the irregular structures present in the center of the lymph node. These are the medullary cores. And we have this red structure, it is a medullary trabeculum. The area between the cord and the trabeculum, which is dotted here, it is the medullary sinus. Don't forget, the medullary sinuses are lined by 2 types of cells, and the medullary sinuses contain the filtered lymph. So this is the label medullary cores and medullary sinus. Finally, number 7 is the trabeculae. Here we have said about it before. It is this red area. Here it is the trabeculae passing to the medulla. Don't forget that all the trabeculae arise from the deep surface of the capsule. Some of them divide the cortex into regular compartments, and some of them divide the medulla into irregular compartments. Don't forget that the area between the trabeculae in the medulla and the trabecular in the medulla and the medullary cord, it is called medullary sinus. And finally, don't forget the paracortex, this area here which is deep to the in the cortex, this deep area, it is the paracortex containing the T lymphocytes. Here we have these two red lines represent the trabeculum, and the trabeculum here, it is from the undersurface of the capsule. Don't forget the trabecular sinuses are the whitish area beside the trabeculum. And finally, don't forget the function of the lymph node, which are filtration of the lymph from microorganisms and foreign bodies, also the formation and recirculation of the lymphocytes, and finally immunological functions in the form of humoral immunity and cell-mediated immunity. Another picture also, we have here the capsule thin, and we have the subcapsular sinus, which is white, and we have the trabeculum, which is red, and the white area near to the trabeculum, it is the trabecular sinus, and we have the lymphatic nodules. Here are the lymphatic nodules, and we have here the medullary cords, the dark blue, and we have here the medullary trabeculum or septa, which is red, and the area in between the cord and the trabeculum, it is the medullary sinus. So this is another picture for the lymph node. Very nice picture again for the lymph node. Here we have the capsule, and the capsule is covering the cortex, of course. Here, this is the cortex formed of the lymphatic follicles. Here we have the trabeculum, which is the red, and the white area is the trabecular sinus. Here we have a large vessel here. This vessel is the afferent lymph vessel, which enters the convex border. You may be asked about what is this border. It is the convex border of the lymph node. And nothing, we have here the trabeculum, and the white area is the trabecular sinus. This is the primary follicle, or when it has some germinal center, so it can be a secondary follicle. You may be asked about the cells as we discussed before, present in the germinal center, present in the medullary cords, present in the sinuses. This is the picture showing also the outer part of the lymph node. We have here the capsule formed of connective tissue cells, connective tissue fibers, collagen and elastic. Here we have here fat cells. This is the subcapsular sinus containing lymph. These are the lymphatic follicles or nodules, and this is the trabeculum here dividing the cortex into regular compartments.